الله الكبير. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. الله الكبير. Today we are privileged that we are here by God's grace, and we are going through this exercise that we are growing our souls, and we are in a position to get closer to our Creator, and that's the most important thing that could happen to us. And it is a huge privilege that God has bestowed upon us, and we should remember this, and we should be honored by this occasion that we are here today, and we are alive, and we're willing and able to do this, and so this is a huge blessing. So when you dial this number, or you log onto this website and join this conference, this is a huge privilege. This is not something that everybody is honored to go through. So by the grace of God, He still has His mercy and His grace encompassing us, and we are privileged to have this occasion that we have today, and we should never forget it. Again, gratefulness and appreciativeness is a godlike quality, and we have to follow the path of God, which is the only path that takes us to salvation and to a better place that we cannot even imagine how great it is. So today, what I wanted to discuss is that the email that I sent to the group yesterday, and today I said I got a lot of responses, so I have to explain what I meant by that, by the Aphelion Day. And actually it's interesting because it's called actually Aphelion Day, so I wish everybody a happy Aphelion Day. And, we go through our lives, our daily lives, and we don't pay attention to these blessings that God has bestowed upon us. One of the things that you have to remember is that the 4 seasons are not because of the distance to the sun. The 4 seasons are chiefly, overwhelmingly, by about a factor of 4 or 5, is the idea of the axis of the tilt of the axis of the earth. Okay, so there is a tilt of 23.5 degrees with respect to the normal to the elliptical orbit of the solar system. So that 23.5 degrees, that's what causes the 4 seasons. So you're going to go through spring, summer, and then fall, and then winter. To a lesser extent, the distance from the sun, it either subtracts from this a little bit or adds to this a little bit. And the other fact that you have to also remember that most of the land masses are in the northern hemisphere. Okay? So right now the tilt of the axis at the farthest place is tilted towards the sun. Okay, that means the rays of the sun are basically perpendicular to the surface of the earth in the northern hemisphere. In the southern hemisphere, you have right now you have winter. Okay, and so it switches. Then in the winter time, we're going to be on January 4th or January 5th. I don't remember which one. We are going to have the perihelion day, which means that we are closest to the sun, and that also causes the tilt of the axis away from the sun in the northern hemisphere and towards the sun in the southern hemisphere. So you're going to have summer in the southern hemisphere and winter in the northern hemisphere. Okay, so this is a huge mathematical method that you go through this, and it's in classical mechanics. It's called symmetric heavy top. Okay, and this basically works like a tippy top. The tippy top that you have, is it actually revolves around the axis which is perpendicular to the surface of the rotation. And so these are called dynamics of the rigid body, and these ideas are old, but they are mathematically very complicated. And the idea is that this actually applies to Earth. That Earth goes through this precession around the vertical line to the surface of the plane of the orbit of the Earth around the Sun. Okay, that tilt of the axis. So it goes through that precession, and this happens every 26,000 years. Okay, so 13,000 years from now, we are going to be close to the Sun, but the tilt of the axis is going to be towards the Sun, so we are going to be about 7% hotter during the winter time. During the summer times, and 7% cooler during the winter time, which we are going to be away from the Sun, but the tilt of the axis is also going to be away from the Sun. Okay, on the elliptical orbit. Remember now that the Sun is this Kepler's law. All of the planets are going around the Sun in elliptical orbit with the Sun located at one of the two foci. Okay? So all of these wobbles that we have, there's also another wobble which basically going on more often, and that's the tilt of the axis changes just a little bit. That's called nutation. Okay, so that's another mathematical construct that you have to go through. These are very highly mathematical things that you need advanced mathematics to solve this. The thing is that there's a huge difference between that tippy top and the Earth, and that is that if you do a calculation for the Earth and try to find this rotation, you get about 400 years. Okay. Compared to 26,000 years, it's nothing. Okay, so you don't want to go through this thing every 400 years because the climate is going to be completely changed. And so if you are close to the Sun and the tilt of the axis is also towards the Sun, you're basically going to have a difference of winter and summer by about 14% in intensity of the light, which translates to 14% more heat than between the summer and the winter time. The tilt of the axis actually causes about 50%. Okay, so imagine this. That means that 50 degrees, you're going to have change it by 50 degrees. That means that in the winter time you're going to have 20 degrees, say, Fahrenheit. In the summer you're going to have 70 degrees. Okay, so that sort of evens out. Okay, and so that is as is right now. 13,000 years later, it's going to be completely the opposite. Okay? So that's why I said that these small things that we overlook in our lives, these are wisdom of God, that He has put in us at this time, at this location. And so it's going to get another 13,000 years to go to the other extreme. Okay? And remember now that masses that are solid, they actually absorb heat a lot faster. So it's a very easy experiment. When it's hot outside, if you put a piece of metal outside and you put a bucket of water outside, the bucket of water, after an hour or so, you can stick your hand in the bucket of water and you'll find the water is warm, but it's not hot. On the other hand, if you touch that metallic object, it's very hot. Okay, you can actually cook on it. That's that hot. Okay, so that's the wisdom behind the tilt of the axis being towards the Sun at the farthest place. Okay, so that's the cause for our gratefulness to God, that we have to keep that in mind, that all of these are designed for our comfort. Okay, that we are here today and we are enjoying this. If it was the other way, we would have been 14 degrees hotter. Okay, would have been 64 degrees. Okay, that difference would have been 64 degrees, which is going to be unbearable. Okay, So it goes basically from 20 degrees to 84 degrees. That's just the average, but the extremes are going to be a lot hotter. So it's going to be very cold very cold winters and very hot summers if you were on the other side. If 13,000 years from now, if you lived at that time, okay? So all of these things, but as I said, these calculations are not that easy, and they do not give you the right answer. And the reason they do not give you the right answer because Earth is really not a rigid body. Okay? A rigid body means that points inside it, the distance between the points inside, always fixed. They do not change. Okay? The size of the Earth and the shape of the Earth changes just a little bit because of the gravity of other objects. Okay? It's called many-body problem. Many-body problem is an unsolvable problem in physics. We just don't know how to handle it. Okay? We just know how to do a two-body problem. Two-body problem is the sun and the Earth, or the moon and the Earth. That's it. Not any other influence from other bodies, which there are a lot of them. Okay? So we cannot do the sun, the moon, and the Earth all together. It won't work. Okay? Three-body system, we cannot do it. Many-body system, there is no way. We usually do a mean field. We get an average of all of these fields of gravity and everything that they have on each other and try to approximate it that way. But it never gives you the right answer. Okay, as I said, if you do the calculation correctly for a top, which is the same size of the Earth, you're going to get a number which is completely underestimation. The reality of the situation, I say, is 26,000 years, approximately. It's 25,000 something. But anyway, you can check it on the web. But anyway, what I'm saying is that's what I meant by that happy Aphelion Day, and this is an occasion for us to be grateful to God. That was my point yesterday, and I was trying to say that if it was the other way around, it would be completely unbearable. So that 50% will go to 64%, which is going to be really bad, the difference between summer and winter, and for the northern hemisphere. Now, on the other hand, the southern hemisphere is okay because it's mostly water. See, if you look at the globe and you look at the equator, the southern hemisphere, it's part of Africa, which is the skinny part of Africa. Okay, it's not the Sahara and all that in the North Africa. In the southern Africa, which is the skinny part of Africa, and then you have part of South America, and you also have Australia. That's it. Okay, I mean, archipelago of Indonesia those are small masses, so that's not much. But I'm just saying that most of the solid objects, if you will, which are the continents and those things, most of them are in the northern hemisphere. And that's what, as I said, this is God's wisdom to have the tilt this way and at this time when we are farthest from the sun. Okay? So our summers we are farthest from the sun for exactly this reason. Okay? And then during the winter time, if you were close to we are close to the sun in the winter time, but if you were the other way around, that you were away from the sun, then all of those land masses, they also lose heat very fast. Okay, again the same thing. Okay, if you have liquid something, I don't know, I mean like alcohol or something, you can still, it's outside, you can still stick your finger in there and you get it out, it's okay. But if you have a metallic object which is outside and it immediately freezes on the surface, and sometimes if you touch it, your fingers actually get stuck to it, okay, because it's very cold. So the reason is because they also do. So this is all this thermodynamical stuff that comes into play that people really do not care, and people do not see it. Okay, but as I said, we have to look at it more carefully, and that's what God says. God says, look around you and see. Okay, you will see, you'll find God's face everywhere, and that's absolutely true. That's absolutely the fact. Okay, and now these are all classical mechanics. Okay, and then we said, that there is no relativity in here. There is nothing in there and it's a lot more complicated than that. Okay, and even the elliptical orbit of the Earth squeezes and stretches a little, and that's because of Jupiter and Saturn, that are these massive objects which is on the other side. Depends on where they are, okay, according to the position of Earth with respect to them in the orbital motion of all of these planets around the sun. Okay, so all of these things are designed by God in a way to actually He says, I provided this for you. Okay, that's what He says. I provide this for you, and we don't think about it. We do not say, okay, well, thank you for doing this for us. That if it was the other way around, then there is no reason for it not to be the other way around. Okay. As I said, if you lived on Mars, because Mars is a smaller object, smaller planet, okay, and that object, which is Mars, will provide only half the provision that you have here on Earth. Earth is the largest rocky planet in the whole solar system, and God has chosen to put us on this one. Okay? He could have put us on Mars, and we would have had half the provisions, okay? But this is absolute generosity, and I try to tell people that is existence of God. That tells you existence of God. Those people who keep saying denying God and stuff, they don't even look or think. Okay? Just think about it a little bit. Why you are on the largest planet, rocky planet in the solar system? Because the provision is larger for you. The provision is more. On the surface of a planet, which is the largest one, you have energy per capita is the largest. Provision per capita is the largest. So we see God right there. Because that comes from generosity. Generosity is spiritual aspect. It's not material aspect. Material aspect is based on, I want to have everything and you don't have nothing. Okay? So you want to take instead of give. Okay? Zero-sum game. That you want everything from everybody else, but you don't want to give it back. And God just keeps giving us. And again, we are blind to all of these provisions that God has provided for us, for all the blessings that He's given us, and we don't think about it. Okay, we don't think about it, why this is like this. But this is a fact, and it's all based on mathematics. He talks to us based on language of mathematics, which is universal. Everybody can understand it. Okay, and this what I just explained to you. When you write the equations and do the problems correctly, okay. So it goes into tensor algebra and all kinds of stuff. When you do that, all of those people who are experts, like the magicians, remember, they understand it. They don't have to have the same language that you are speaking, but they understand the mathematics. Okay? So it goes beyond that. What we are showing today with these numbers, okay, these are the simple numbers. Everybody understands it. Okay? You don't have to be an expert. You don't have to know tensor algebra to understand it. Okay. So God has made it even easier for us. And again, we are blind to it, and we don't ponder, and we do not, spend a little bit of time doing this. Okay, and ask ourselves why. Why is it supposed to be like this? Why isn't it the other way around? Okay, the other way around would have been really bad. Okay, and so people are talking about, that you do the so-called carbon emission into the atmosphere and everything, and the temperature will go up by 1 degree, okay? 1 degree, even 1 degree is bad with this delicate design that God has. And can you imagine if it was 7%? Like instead of 100 degrees, it would be 107, okay? Can you imagine that? And then during the winter time, instead of 20 degrees, it would have been 13 degrees. So the difference would be 14. Can you imagine that? Okay. But anyway, so this is something that God has given us. And again, I keep saying that we have to be grateful. We have to be grateful. And I'm going to keep on saying that. Okay? So I'm going to stop here, and we'll